Buenos tardes, everybody. Before we get into main plans for today, it is very inappropriate not to bring up today's date. Today, as you all know, is September 11th. September 11th, 2020. And the date written out in complete number form is 9/11/20. You noticed that I circled 9/11. Deborah Silverman talks about something very historical, very unforgettable, very disturbing, emotional, and, well, something that was a monumental event that changed the world, and it was a tragedy that happened on this very day, way back in 2001. And I think now the pieces of the puzzle are really coming together, and those, the individuals that are born on this day, I don't want to use the words unfortunate and unlucky because that's just how it happened. And I'm not talking about this date in particular, the September 11th in general, but I'm talking about the date in particular. So September 11th, 2001, or as it would be in Spanish, El 11 de septiembre 2001. Those people were, and don't think of it as a negative. Think of it more as a positive. That the day that they were born is very, very unique because it is very special. It is very, very significant and a very, very monumental day. In a negative way, but in a positive way, because let me tell you that in every negative situation, there will always positive lessons and values to be gained from it. What did we learn from way back when the planes crashed in to the towers? Well, it gave America a wake-up call because, especially airports were, they probably had security, but they were under less security than they are now to check people over and have all these identifications for if they're tourists or terrorists, if they're safe or unsafe, if they're good or bad, and those individuals who do have those weapons, those guards, take them away. They'll probably admitted to the police or authorities or whoever, before people can go on planes. There's a lot of things, like the building in New York is one World Trade Center with stronger materials, and the Pentagon, well, that was probably built into something new, and thank goodness that at the time, I was not in New York City. I wasn't in Manhattan. By the way, for those of the individuals in Everlast Clubus, in Everlast, there was a chapter and a scene about the Twin Towers. Because that was Mary's domain. Mary Hightower, get it right, her last name is Hightower. Even for those who haven't read the book. I'm not spoiling it or anything really, but I'm sure that you could, find this important too. Her name was Hightower. And she was somebody, who took afterlife under her wing and cared for them and got to know them and nurtured and protected them. She was the queen ruler of Everlast. Remember that any object that crosses into the land between life and death, which the living world and the spirits, they're both one. But Everlast is just a lens, a particular lens in the same world of where buildings or objects or people that were loved and really, really cared for and remembered by humans crossed over. And after, the planes crashed into the towers, and that's where they ended up, as they ended up in Everlast, and then Mary turned them into her own, orphanage, shall we say. And I really think that she probably shouldn't have done that, because those buildings should be respected and honored and left alone to just be themselves of how they were. Like you're in a museum instead of, children occupying them. And I could recommend to you several videos and a little timeline of the events of 9/11, and particularly the people that were on board. I believe it was like Flight 77 or Flight 11. That really adds to some of my anxieties about flying in the sky, because everybody, young or old, has fears, and that's one of my fears a little bit. And just imagine, I can't even imagine being in that situation, and then suddenly, people take over the plane, hijackers, and not knowing what's going to happen to my life, if I'm going to be surviving or where it's going into, and just sitting in there crashing. And for a lot of people, it's sickening to think about. It's very, very uncomfortable and just unfathomable and unimaginable. Unthinkable. Think about is that kind of thing. These were people who risk their lives, the hijackers, for a greater cause, and that was to attack one of the major centers of America. Because there was a deep-seated hatred for us, and then the Serbians, and so they wanted to really, really weaken us. And I'm surprised that it did not start a major war. Thousands people were admitted to the army to fight the Serbians. Just like assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand to begin World War One, which was a small thing as shooting somebody compared to blowing up and destroying towers. Millions of people that were there that day. That that it was just that thing. It didn't start something. Didn't start a war between us and them, and that shooting of a leader of a country or a nation that Bosnia was against started a huge thing in 9/11, and those events did not. So that's another novel thing to think about. And if you read Deborah Silverman's book, The Missing Element, and I don't think that she tries to spoil it, and I think for that type of book, it's okay if you spoil that type of book, because it's not like it's a fictional story or something. But there's a story of a man, that she talks about in her horoscope that was going to Hawaii at the time, that he was a member of the firefighter crew, and he was going to Hawaii at the time, and then on the plane he got a call saying alert of something, that was the events of 9/11. So then he got back to New York, and he, went, he got in with his firefighting, and he was, probably one of the crews that, really was responsible for, saving people, fighting the fires of the towers. And then, after both of them were blown up, the whole thing tumbled down, and there was a big cloud of smoke that just ran at people that were running, and it just followed them, and it was huge and scary, and there was really not a whole lot of option for those in the area to hide, because if you just stopped, you might just as well be covered and probably die or choke from breathing it in. And I really want to compare just the basic idea of that to Mount Vesuvius and Pompeii. But the difference is that 9/11 was done by humans, and Mount Vesuvius was just an act of nature. Comparatively, Mount Vesuvius was probably more devastating, probably worse, but it took over the sky, the sun disappeared, and it was, like, monster come to life and deadly. And I wonder if there's a fiction novel out there about Mount Vesuvius, a really, really good story. So, and it's really just the scene of the 9/11 is really, really amazing, and also disturbing to look at, and fascinating, but disturbing to look at, just like twisters or lightning. So I just wanted to bring that up, just because today is the day for that. Today is the day that we will never ever forget what happened today on 2001. So I just want to tell you, all of you will, I was on that day. I was actually visiting Julia Esquimalt in Arizona at her Arizona Paradise House, and we were actually riding horses in the desert on that day, since it was a really, really nice, beautiful, beautiful day. The temperature was very, very temperate, and it was almost cloudless, and it was just gorgeous. I could have been out there the entire day if I hadn't got a call from somebody in her house. You know, she had a phone, and it rang while we were on horseback, and she answered the call, and her husband said, you have to see this. You have to come back to the house right now and turn on the news and see something. And he wouldn't tell what it is till we got back, and we found out what happened. It was a live report, and we saw it. We didn't see it with our own eyes, but we were sitting in her living room, and we were watching it as it unfolded. So I was way down in southwestern United States. That's really her summer house, her getaway house. I was way down in the southwest, and it was going on way on the other side of the country, way up here, way up in the northeast. So I'm glad I was far, far away from that as possible. So, anyway, that was that for today. Excuse me. Okay. So, American Lit Group, you have until Sunday at 6 to finish up reading pages 9 through 50. Okay? And get those journals, the Code Hero journal turned in, okay? So both of those things are due. And also, as you're going through, remember to look for really, really significant quotes, and then put it on, sticky note or in your notebook, or on a Google document, or slide presentation, or whatever. Make a note of it. I don't care. Put the quote, and then maybe a little description about what it shows, but that's not really necessary, as long as you have things organized for the journal that you're going to be writing at the very, very end, that we have information. So read it all the way through for the purpose of just reading the story and enjoying the story. Then treat it like it is, like you're studying it, and you're analyzing it, and you're taking notes from it, and go back and find those quotes. It would be easier to do it all in one thing, but it just kind of makes more sense to do it the other way. So you can really read the story, then you go through and analyze it. Now, very, very good news. English Lit Clubus class will be starting up. Not today, tomorrow. It will be starting up tomorrow. We're going to be starting reading 1984 by George Orwell. I will tell you, I've just started to get into it myself, and it is dense, and there was a lot of things going on in the book where the print is very dense. So we'll get into, we'll start reading it. I do want you to, actually, I think it would be wise for all of you, so that we can meet tomorrow, maybe in the afternoon, so in the morning, you can get a couple pages in so that you'll kind of, so that you can get your feet in the water, know what you're getting into, so that you'll kind of prepared or maybe preview what we're going to be reading, what I'm going to be having you read, probably silently. We might, sometimes I might read it out loud, other times silent, and I'll be, as we're going through, finding things to come up with. So that is what you need to worry about for English Lit Clubus class, and the American Lit class. Remember those pages, okay? I will tell you that reading Old Man and the Sea that's a simpler book than reading this, so that will not take a lot of time. This will take us a lot of time to get through, but I will commit to it. We will commit to it. That I can guarantee. Pinky promise. We will be sitting down and rolling, getting through the text. There's a video by Books for MKs about do's and don'ts of reading classics, and this is a classic, and that might is sci-fi book, and that might be really handy dandy and very useful, so that some of her tips, do's and don'ts, might be good to watch prior to getting into this book. Okay, I haven't done it. I might do that. You don't need to do it, but it is just just a little recommendation for you to do that for your benefit. I'll have it on my English Lit class page. Okay. I think that is really it for everybody. I think that all of you now can go, and tonight we're going to be having some wings, some hot wings with some fries baked in the oven, so it should be really delicious. Since we can't all go on buses to Buffalo Wild Wings tonight because of the situation, we could, but I don't know if restaurants down there are open. I know that restaurants up here are open for business, and they have very special expectations. However, if we're going down there, which is kind of, a bigger city, I would like to wait until a little bit later to get to that. So, anyway, thank you everybody for sitting in on this little meeting. I will appreciate it. You can go.